Welcome to 734Games, and this is your host Tom, coming to you from Washtenaw County. Now, today we are talking about crossplay. Now, why would Sony want crossplay? Why would Microsoft and Nintendo want it? I mean, what are the upsides of crossplay? We'll talk about that first. The upside is you would placate some of the consumers who want to play against their friends on different platforms. So that is the upside. And also, it would actually, add to profits of certain third-party developers. Now, that's another, because obviously, if you're Sony, you're not going to put your first-party games on another platform, so you're not going to have cross-play anyway. So, you help third parties, and you placate consumer criticism. So, looking at the big three console makers, why would any of these big three companies, let's examine why any of these big three companies would want crossplay. What is it about crossplay that, is good for any of these companies or bad for any of these companies? So, what, if anything, would deter Microsoft from wanting to do crossplay? Well, that would be a thriving console business. And of course, Microsoft does not have a thriving console business. They sold 5 million consoles last year, while Sony sold 20, or 20 plus. So there is no reason for Microsoft. They're not making money with consoles. They may be making money on game sales, but I doubt it. I think they make more money off Xbox Live and Games Pass than they do off actual game sales. So if you're Microsoft, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you do crossplay. It's not like it's going to hurt your already failing console business. Last but not least, let's talk about the Nintendo Switch. Now, the Switch is selling well. Let's just face it, the Nintendo Switch is a tablet that you can plug into your TV. It's not really a traditional console, and it's not really a system with any real longevity. I mean, okay, you might think I'm wrong. Okay, that's fine. We might have a difference in opinion on this, but the thing is already cracking and breaking. And I know a lot of people who I know some Switch users, and they're like, "Well, all tablets do that." And I'm like, "Well, I've had a Kindle Fire for 3 years. I just throw in my bag, and I haven't had it, start cracking or anything." But anyway, Nintendo. We're talking about crossplay, and Nintendo would want crossplay, especially with a company like Microsoft, because then they could probably get them to, pay them to utilize some of those cloud services. Because Nintendo, let's just face it, they're not known for their online prowess. They've never been really particularly any good at online gaming. They've never been big in online gaming, and they were totally unprepared for the advent of multiplayer in gaming. So if you're Nintendo, working with Microsoft for crossplay makes a lot of sense too. Although I think it would have been smarter if they would have worked with iOS and Apple. If they just stayed in the mobile market, there would have been more room for growth for them. Because the Wii, let's face it, is a mobile console. Not the Wii, sorry, the Switch is a mobile console. That's what I meant to say. Now, as far as the Switch is concerned, another incentive for Nintendo to utilize crossplay is the fact that they put out the Wii, which was a 100 million seller, and they put out the Wii U, which sold very little. But it was even with the 100 million Wii's that were sold, the third-party companies struggled to sell games on the Wii. And then on the Wii U, when they had made maybe 10 million, they really struggled. So none of the third-party developers who made Wii games or Wii U games made any money. So when you add something like, if you're Nintendo and you sweeten the pot with crossplay, for third-party developers, that's actually very helpful. So for Nintendo to have crossplay, that makes sense. And to wrap this thing up, we're going to talk about Sony. Why would they jump into crossplay? They don't need to. They've sold 80 million units.
They're probably going to sell at least 90 million units before the lifetime of the PlayStation 4. So why do they need crossplay? They don't really. Although why would they have? What would be the incentive for them to utilize crossplay? Well, they're fans of this big game called Fortnite, and I know the people who play Fortnite would love it if PlayStation 4 had crossplay with the Xbox One and the Nintendo Switch. Now, with that being said, that number is a drop in the bucket to the 90 million people who already own a PlayStation, or the 80 million people. Now, the only company that would really see a huge increase in profit from crossplay from the PlayStation 4 would actually be Microsoft. Because even if Sony didn't want to buy Microsoft's cloud services, other companies, the third-party companies like Ubisoft and EA and all the other big companies, would be more likely to buy more services from Microsoft if Sony allowed crossplay. So that's the real push behind this crossplay push from Microsoft. Now, would that hinder Sony? Would the idea of Microsoft making profit hinder Sony? Yeah, probably, maybe. Yeah, of course it would. But I think that there's very little incentive for Sony to utilize crossplay on their platform. Now, the only way I could see Sony supporting crossplay with the Xbox One and the Nintendo Switch would be if Microsoft would probably would get put all its services on the PlayStation. All its services being Games Pass, Xbox Live. Well, not Xbox Live, obviously, because they have PSN, but all their backwards compatible games. Then maybe I could see if Microsoft sweetened the pot by throwing in all that. Then I could see Sony going along with Microsoft and Nintendo on crossplay. But that is very unlikely. I mean, Microsoft would probably do it, but I think that there are people at Sony that would not allow that to happen, and I think that it just wouldn't. No, I don't see it. I think that they would be still very apprehensive. But other than that, we already seen Microsoft wants to put its games on as many platforms as possible because they make money off services, not consoles. So if Microsoft offered to throw all its games on the PlayStation 4 and support the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, then maybe I could see Sony, going along with crossplay. But there would still be a big chance that they would still say no. Because Sony likes to have control of its own networks, and they like to have all the games that run on the PlayStation 4 on their network. It's easier for them to run all the games when they're running on a single set of hardware. When you only have to worry about one set of hardware, it's easy to do that. Microsoft is the only company here that knows how to utilize services that can run games on different levels of hardware. That's one of the Microsoft is a software company. Sony is not. And that's it for this episode of 734 Games. Hope you've enjoyed this episode and my nerdy commentary. That's it. Goodbye.